Well, you saw my honorable mentions video, so let's get this over with.
I see it, and now it's all within my reach.
Initially, Girls Band Cry didn't impress me all that much, but it really grew on me as it went along, and especially the more I thought about it after the fact. A story about an out-of-her-luck high school dropout who arrives in Tokyo and forms a rock band with 4 other girls, each with their own baggage. Already you can see the visual quality is amazing, with genuinely some of the best 3D animation to come out of anime, which both exaggerates gestures for comedic effect and highlights the very subtle body language that speaks to the characters. And while those characters definitely had to grow on me over time, by the end of the show I was having so much fun following their hilarious antics as well as their personal journeys. It's a deeply harrowing situation they're in when their identity as a band is centered around rejecting the industry's corporate and audience appeal and reigniting the spirit of rock they love so much. Even more heart-wrenching when throughout the story it feels like the entire industry is rigged against them, but still they push on, and you can definitely see their drive to rock in the killer music, which is spectacular. Just my only problem, there straight up is not an ending. It immediately ends after the final performance when it feels like it had room for like 30 more seconds just to properly wrap up the show. Still, this was one of the greatest shows of the year, and I'm glad it got as popular as it did by the end of the year. Train to the End of the World was one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. From the beginning, I was hooked by its wacky, insane premise and its equally quirky execution and energy that you don't really get in a lot of anime, especially through its OP, which gonna call it best OP of the year. The story revolves around 4 girls taking a journey on a train to the end of the line to check on their missing friend when the whole world has gone cuckoo, and along the way stop at a multitude of unique places, including a village of mushroom people, a city of tiny army men, and a zombie apocalypse. Each episode is so much fun to watch and vibe to, with the locations being incredibly immersive as well as the characters working really well off each other through their quick and snappy dialogue. The drama is also decently executed with a looming sense of dread in the final few episodes. However, this series' biggest problem is that it could have been longer, like it could have been around like 24 or so episodes, because the aforementioned dread is resolved a bit too quickly in an honestly not very well written reconciliation scene. Nevertheless, this show was a lot of fun, and in some ways felt like the 5th season to Infinity Train we never got. Just a version that felt like the creators were high. Anywho, bring back Infinity Train. Well, I finally got around to watching Arcane. Though if I saw season 1 back in 2021, I probably wouldn't rank it high, maybe somewhere right below Wonder Egg priority, since this is much more of a world-building show than a character show, which would explain its massive popularity since world-building invites multiple fan theories. But I can't deny what a gorgeous work of art this show is, from its animation to its dialogue to its music to its action, and season 2 makes for an incredibly satisfying cap-off to the show as a whole. Echo is easily my favorite character, obviously, and he gets a lot of time to himself in his own episode, which is my favorite of the entire series. Jinx is an incredible character, as always. I love the final battle, and the rift between Jace and Victor is ultra compelling. Though with this being the end of the story, throwing in so many ideas, there were a decent handful of characters and storylines that kind of felt like they ran out of time to do anything interesting with them. Like, I do not care about Mel at all. I never did in the first place, and I think she is a really boring character. Same goes for Ambessa. But otherwise, this show is amazing, and I'm mildly curious to see what the Noxa spinoff will look like.
'Cause this girl thinks I'm part of her world, and that new territory is scary.
It seems a little disingenuous to put a series widely known for its incredible animation below a show that is somewhat notorious for its noticeably troubled production quality. I can't deny that the troubled production and its results are noticeable and frequently frustrating, but that just speaks to how perfect the writing is. No joke, if the animation were better and if I had the chance to actually hear the songs, this might have had a shot at being my favorite of the year. I already made a video on this, specifically the first half of the series, so if you want more in-depth thoughts, you can go watch that. But in short, as someone who is tired of a lot of typical rom-com tropes and misunderstandings and misguided lessons, Whisper Me a Love Song approaches romance in a real and authentic way that not a lot of other shows can reach, and it does so impressively through the lens of an incredibly likable and wholesome protagonist who could be a great unintentional stand-in for the asexual experience. And of course, the second half of the show is equally as great, with compelling and emotional drama between Yuri's band and Shiho's band, Shiho being one of the most fascinating characters of the year for me. And even with its inconsistent animation, there are still moments of genuinely beautiful shots and extremely funny visual gags. If you're a fan of the manga, there's a high chance you won't like this at all, but if you've never read the manga and don't care about technical execution, I'd say give this a shot. Despite my hangups, this was one of the most personal and ethereal experiences I have had all year. I just hope Yokohama Animation Lab isn't the studio that animates this if it gets a season 2. I do not trust them after everything they've done. Drop this and give it to Biberi or Troika. Himari and Yuri deserve better than this.
Now I see what I gotta do. Open your heart, it's gonna be alright.
I love ReZero. It is one of my favorite fantasy works of all time, with a stunning world and magic system accompanied by a rich history and culture that encourages me to theorycraft more than any other series has. Season 3 started airing this year, and the first 8 episodes were fantastic, beginning with a feature-length premiere that eased us back into the world with its colorful cast of amazing characters, a multitude of lore and foreshadowing, and a shocking and mind-bending cliffhanger that resulted in probably one of the most disturbing return by deaths. And what is particularly interesting for this arc so far is how after Subaru stumbles with his first few deaths in the first 2 episodes, he stops relying on his powers and starts relying on the people around him, culminating in his speech to the city, which is one of the best moments of the anime alongside From Zero and Parent and Child, as it shows how far he's come from a pathetic, self-aggrandizing incel to a powerful and capable hero. Though so far season 3 has been my least favorite season, honestly, the lack of return by deaths does remove the mystery aspect of the show I've always loved. Emilia, my favorite character, is literally taken out of commission, and Regulus f***ing sucks. I hate this dude with every fiber of my being, and not in a fun way. But otherwise, I'm just so happy to see ReZero back, and I'm greatly looking forward to how this season will end. The Amazing Digital Circus had 3 new episodes this year, and in general, I thought all of them were fantastic. Fast Food Masquerade is probably my least favorite episode currently though, mainly because Gangle is my least favorite of the 6 main characters, though she is much more interesting here than she is in other episodes. Candy Carrier Chaos blew me away with how funny and energetic it was, but also with how emotional it was in its themes of existentialism concerning a literal NPC and relating that to real-life experiences. But my favorite episode so far is Mystery of Mildenhall Manor, where we get some backstory and character development from Keener, who is my favorite character. So far, I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I'm looking forward to more Digital Circus. I am also looking forward to Glitch's new show, Knights of Guinevere, from Dana Terrace, creator of The Owl House. But I'll talk about that more when I get to my 2025 expectations video. Maybe.
Someday, one day, we'll say live life at no.
I regrettably missed Frieren last year, but I'm glad I was able to give it a watch so I can put it in this year's top 10, and undeniably it is a masterpiece. ReZero still has my favorite world, but this might be a close second, as the story tells of an immortal mage who was once a member of the hero's party that vanquished the Demon King, and after the death of her would-be lover, she goes on a journey far and wide to observe how the world around her has changed. The messages of the passage of time and dealing with grief are extremely compelling, and even though they didn't leave me crying like a baby, they still left me pondering my life and my existence. Frieren herself is funny, but I knew that even before watching the anime. I will say, in regards to the episodes that did come out in 2024, while I absolutely love all of the test takers, the actual plot of the arc can have a tendency to repeat itself. And I really miss Sign, but spoilers, I heard he comes back. Frieren is also a dazzlingly beautiful show, with stunning visuals and a gorgeous soundtrack by none other than Evan Call. No joke, if I started watching this back in 2023, it would have been my favorite of that year. Season 2 was announced a while back, and I am greatly looking forward to more Frieren, both the show and the character, as she has instantly become one of my favorites.
It's a luscious mix of words and tricks. Let us bet when we know we should fall.
How to Become Ordinary was by far the biggest surprise out of anything I've watched this year. Already it's evident how much of a visual masterpiece this is through its cinemascope aspect ratio and how it utilizes its space to convey the emotions of the characters on a similar level as Naoko Yamada's works. However, its story is truly spectacular, about two high schoolers named Kobato and Osanai who make a deal to help each other become ordinary people, as one was ostracized for his smug detective persona and the other is extremely vengeful and petty. The first half of the series consists of many episodic journeys of the both of them tapping into their uniqueness and solving small mysteries around town, like the whereabouts of a purse or how some guy can make hot cocoa taste so good. It's a lot of fun. The second half, however, spirals into genuinely one of the most deeply harrowing incidents that unravels every part of these two characters, exposing their lies, their flaws, and their broken promises. The finale to season 1 isn't exactly a tragic ending, but it definitely feels tragic in how it portrays what trying to be ordinary truly costs. To fit in and be ordinary, you have to give up the parts of yourself that make you, and sometimes that means cutting ties with people you genuinely have fun with. It's all a pensive exploration of that concept. Season 2 is scheduled to air this spring, and I am really excited to see how the rest of the story is going to play out.
There was a moment forever ago that keeps me up on quiet nights and flickers like a pilot light.
Oh, come on, technically this counts. I'm still planning on releasing that Molly McGee retrospect, so I'm not going to say a whole lot about the finale in this video. Molly McGee had its penultimate episode and its series finale this year, and while I think the penultimate episode is a little stupid, treating Jinx like a final force when she's been defeated before in underwhelming ways, and patching things up with the Chen family way too quickly, the final episode is, without a shred of doubt, the best finale out of any Western cartoon I have ever seen. Owl House, Amphibia, Gravity Falls, Avatar, maybe, you name it. Whereas other shows have a more bombastic and climactic final stand as their ultimate cap-off, Molly McGee takes a daring approach and ties up its loose ends with an extremely existential yet uplifting tone. Maybe Next Time is probably my favorite out of the show's soundtrack, as its lyrics are so raw and powerful in how they speak to the fear of change and how that interferes with wanting to actually do something with your life. The show holds up a mirror and tells you that it's never too late to start living, that taking risks is how you know you're actually alive. It's one of the most honest and raw moments of any cartoon ever. I hate that Disney canceled the show, but even with its premature finale, it will always be one of my personal favorites.
I keep chasing her till the running end. Is it still a race? If I'm running back to where I started, when I knew
Unrelated, we've seen in recent years how long-running shows have always had a rough time with their finales, no matter how good they are technically, simply because executives try to cut off the show's life without consideration, or writers try to cram in so many ideas that some don't really bear fruit in the end. Sound Euphonium, however, is one of the only instances I can think of a longer than one season series pulling off its final stretch flawlessly, with the only issues this season being issues I've had since the very beginning. It still has the worst queerbait I've ever seen, as well as continues the trend of Sound Euphonium seasons having a sort of slow middle 4 episodes. But otherwise, this final season is a triumph, not just among anime, but animation in general. It is so rewarding to follow Kumiko throughout this journey, going from a two-faced insecure everyman to a powerful and supportive leader. Her connections with everyone in the band is fascinating to see, as you can see this sense of compassion and thoughtfulness within her, but in order to bring that out, she has to work through her selfishness and jealousy, which both manifest into her dishonesty and cause the band a heft of strife. The conundrum with the trumpet Euphonium solely also highlights the relationship between Kumiko and Reina in a fascinating way, as it reveals how despite the two being entirely different people, destined to be on different life paths, they still deeply value one another. Contrary to some, I love the change to the ending from the light novel, as it further accentuates that what Kumiko truly wants in life is to support others and see the people around her be their best. It doesn't surprise me that this flew under a lot of people's radar, especially as a continuation of a series most people consider underrated, though it is one of the most popular shows in Japan. But this will always be one of my favorites, and easily my pick for the best animated show of 2024. Of the decade, however, Aquatope on White Sand is just a little bit ahead on that part. So those are my favorite shows of 2024. What were yours? Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thank you for watching, and let's see how long the Liz and the Bluebird analysis will take to get here, now that it's past the Colors Within's release. Speaking of which, you'll have to wait and see if I'll make a video on that movie.